From the moment you're born, you're taught to look outward. You build mental walls to shield yourself from the chaos, the pressure to compete, the cruel opinions that strike when you're most vulnerable. You armor up for the battles you can see, the enemies that have names, faces, and clear intentions. But let me ask you this. What do you do when you realize the most dangerous saboteur in your life is already living inside your fortress? Have you ever felt that invisible force that holds you back right when you're on the edge of breakthrough? A silent anchor dragging you down just as you're about to leap. You've sworn to yourself with burning conviction, tomorrow will be different. And yet, when the morning comes, you're caught in the same trap, the same habits, the same silent betrayal. You know that voice, the one that whispers just when you need strength the most. You're not enough. Why even try? You're going to fail. It doesn't shout, it slithers, calm, cold, persuasive. This isn't just any enemy. It's subtle, intimate, and brilliantly disguised. It knows every crack in your armor, every insecurity, every unspoken hope, because it's been with you every second of your life. And the most chilling part? It speaks in your own voice, but you're not alone in this inner war. Over 1,600 years ago, a man, an architect of thought and soul, faced this same phantom. He didn't fight with swords or shields, but with radical self-honesty. His name was Augustine, and in the raw pages of his Confessions, he left behind a map, a battle map, a playbook to recognize, confront, and eventually disarm the enemy within. And the question that unlocks the entire journey is surprisingly simple. Are you ready to read it? Before we can read this map, we need to do something radical. Forget the saint. Forget the stained glass windows, the marble statues, the divine aura layered over centuries of religious symbolism. To truly understand Augustine, we must strip away the halo and meet the man, flawed, brilliant, conflicted. Long before he became Saint Augustine, he was simply Augustine. Picture him not as a holy figure, but as a young man pulsing with raw ambition in the heart of the Roman Empire. A rising intellectual, a rock star of rhetoric, a man of unfiltered passion who chased pleasure and fame with the same ferocity we chase likes, validation, and that next dopamine hit today. He had it all: career success, public admiration, access to every indulgence imaginable. But when the noise faded and the night settled in, there was something else. A haunting stillness. A kind of hollow echo reverberating through his chest. That unshakable feeling of being fragmented, of not quite belonging to himself. This journey we're embarking on isn't a history lesson, and it's definitely not a sermon. It's more like psychological archaeology. We're digging into a forgotten operating system for human consciousness. A tool Augustine crafted not through divine downloads, but through raw trial and error, relentless inner struggle, and moments of excruciating honesty. We're not talking dogma, we're talking diagnosis. His was not the story of blind belief, but of a mind wrestling with its own chaos. He was seeking what many of us are still searching for: coherence in a fractured world, an inner alignment strong enough to carry real meaning. So, get ready. We're not just walking through the ruins of Carthage or the streets of ancient Milan. We're stepping into the psyche of a man who cracked himself open to find something deeper. This isn't about ancient saints. It's about a mirror, sharp, honest, and uncomfortably close. And what you might see in it could change everything. Now we step into his world. Imagine the electric buzz of ancient Carthage, a metropolis pulsing with ambition, politics, and seductive pleasures. For a young, gifted Augustine, this wasn't a city, it was a stage. And he was determined to be the main character in the drama of power, intellect, and desire. Two cravings dominated his soul from an early age. First, the hunger of the body. He immersed himself in pleasure, not just for escapism, but to fill an internal void he couldn't name. He chased love, lust, connection, fueled by a yearning that no touch could satisfy. He had a partner, a child, a seemingly full life, but every pleasure left behind the bitter taste of insufficiency. Like drinking salt water, hoping to quench a deeper thirst. The second craving? The hunger of the mind and the ego, the need to be seen, applauded, revered. Augustine mastered rhetoric, the ancient art of verbal influence. He could twist arguments, seduce crowds, and outwit rivals. In many ways, he was the first influencer, seeking applause not in algorithms or views, but in crowded forums and candlelit salons. His mind was his weapon, and he wielded it like a sword. Sound familiar? Replace Roman amphitheaters with Instagram reels. Substitute philosophical debates for TikTok duels of opinion. That same desperate need for validation, for being somebody, still haunts us. We chase it in followers, in titles, in filtered images that hide our fragmentation. Augustine's world may have had different tools, but the trap was identical. And here's the paradox. The more acclaim he gathered on the outside, the more hollow he felt inside. In his Confessions, he didn't romanticize this time of success. He called it a land of misery. He described himself as scattered, fragmented into 1,000 conflicting desires with no center to hold him together. Brilliant, but broken. Addicted to his own patterns, enslaved by the very self-image he had carefully constructed. And then came the line, the brutally human confession that still stings across time. He wrote, "Lord, give me chastity and self-restraint, but not yet." It wasn't just a prayer, it was a mirror, a raw, unfiltered glimpse into the mind of anyone who has ever delayed the hard decision, flirted with discipline but chosen comfort. It's the voice of addiction, of procrastination, of the internal saboteur. We whisper these same things today. I'll quit next week. This month, I'll change. One last time. We know what heals, but we keep choosing what hurts because it numbs faster. That line from Augustine isn't old theology. It's a clinical diagnosis of modern humanity. So the truth became clear. This man who seemed to have everything had nothing of real substance. He was lost in a labyrinth of desire, sprinting toward a finish line that moved further away with every step. He realized joy could not be found in pleasure, nor in applause, nor in intellect, because the disease was deeper. The enemy wasn't outside. It was embedded in the architecture of his being. And just when he was about to collapse under the weight of that realization, he caught a glimpse of who that enemy really was. After spiraling into the depths of despair, entangled in pleasure, ego, and intellectual chaos, Augustine did the only thing left to do. He stopped running. He stopped chasing the next thrill, the next insight, the next round of applause. Cornered by the pain he could no longer silence, he turned inward, for the first time, with radical sincerity. And what he found would reshape the future of Western thought. He didn't find a monster, no forked tail, no fiery shadow. What he found was far more unsettling. A usurper sitting on the throne of his inner world. A part of himself that had hijacked the controls. A false king ruling through fear, desire, and illusion. Today, we call it the ego. Augustine called it superbia, pride disordered, love turned inward and toxic. The ego is not some external demon. It's the mask you've worn for so long you forget it's not your face. It's the image you project, the curated self made of titles, possessions, accolades, opinions, and the script you've memorized to survive. And this mask is terrified of being forgotten, of losing control, of not being enough. So it screams, it manipulates, it traps you in an endless loop of craving and performance. But here's Augustine's master insight, the mechanism behind the madness. He discovered what he called the two wills. Not one, but two internal forces pulling in opposite directions. On one side, the higher will, your soul's whisper, the quiet longing for truth, coherence, presence, and peace. This is the part of you that yearns for something real, something eternal. It's the compass buried beneath the noise, always pointing home. On the other, the lower will, wounded, reactive, enslaved. It doesn't seek truth. It wants the next hit, the next distraction. It fears silence because silence exposes the lie. This will doesn't build, it consumes. It obeys the ego, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, trading depth for dopamine. It's like having two magnets in your chest, one pulling you up toward clarity and integration, the other dragging you down into the mud of habits, impulse, and fear. This tension, this psychic civil war, is the source of our modern paralysis. We want change, but stay chained. We long for peace, yet sabotage it. We crave purpose, but scroll endlessly through hollow content. You are not weak, Augustine tells us. Your will is divided. And how did the lower will gain so much power? With clinical precision, he names the culprit, habit. Every time you give in to the ego's craving, you forge another link in an invisible chain. At first, the link is light, barely noticeable, but repeated daily, it hardens into steel. Eventually, you confuse the chain for your identity. What began as a choice becomes a compulsion. The pattern becomes just the way I am. You believe you can't change, not because it's true, but because you've obeyed the same inner tyrant for so long that his voice now sounds like your own. And here's the breakthrough, the revelation that shattered his illusion. That voice is not you. You are not the prisoner. You are the awareness noticing the prison. You are not the panic or the craving. You are the still space watching them rise and fall. You are not the ego. You are the witness. That was his turning point. The war couldn't be won by fighting the ego on its terms. That would only feed it more energy. The real victory would require a different strategy, one no one expected. When you first recognize the enemy inside, this ego that manipulates your choices and drains your peace, your instinct is to fight, to grip harder, to muscle your way into change. I'll be more disciplined. I'll outsmart this. I'll force myself to be better. It's logical. But Augustine discovered, through exhaustion and inner collapse, that this logic was a trap. You can't kill the ego using the ego's tools. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire and praying for rain. The more you resist, the more it fights back. Because resistance is still attention, and attention is food. So after years of inner civil war, Augustine saw it clearly. The true path to victory wasn't domination, it was surrender. But not surrender as weakness, not giving up. Surrender as strategy. Like a master in Aikido who stops meeting force with force and instead flows, absorbs, redirects. This kind of surrender is a radical move, the decision to stop fueling the illusion. To say to the ego, I see you, I hear your noise, I feel your anxiety, but I won't play your game anymore. You withdraw your belief, you unhook your energy, you choose not to react. And that's where something subtle but powerful happens. Instead of identifying with the storm, you become the sky. Instead of trying to fix every thought, you become the watcher of thought. That shift, from identification to observation, is where all true power begins. Augustine called it interior truth. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence. Modern psychology calls it metacognition. Different names, same reality. The moment you observe a thought instead of becoming it, you create space. And in that space lies your freedom. The practice is deceptively simple. When a compulsive desire arises, don't analyze, don't moralize, just see it. There it is. A mental glitch, an old script, an echo from the past, and you let it pass like a cloud in the sky. The ego is a loud actor on a stage, but only powerful if the audience stays seated. The moment you stand up and leave the theater of the mind, its performance collapses. That's what surrender really means. You stop watching the same painful play on repeat. Augustine leaves us with his deepest insight, his compass for the inner path. Do not go outward, return within. For in the inner man dwells the truth. The ego wants you outside, chasing approval, numbing discomfort, fleeing presence. But truth lives within, beneath all noise. And though this path is deeply personal, it multiplies in power when shared. The first move toward disarming the ego is dragging it into the light, naming it out loud. So today, here's a challenge. reclaim your center, break the spell, declare your intention. In the comments, drop a single word: victory. Let it be your first public stand, a signal to yourself, and maybe to someone watching silently, that the cycle ends here. And if you're feeling bold, go further. Name your enemy's favorite trick. Is it procrastination whispering tomorrow? Is it the inner critic saying not enough? Is it fear in disguise as logic? By naming it, you don't just set yourself free, you become a light in someone else's darkness. Because, as Augustine teaches, freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It's the awareness that in every single moment of clarity, you hold the keys. So here we are. The immortal lesson of Augustine leaves us with a radical shift in perspective. The ego is no longer a dragon to be slain. It's a compass, a reversed compass, one that doesn't point to your destination, but to your chains. Every time you feel the sting of envy, the rise of anxiety, the grasping of pride, it's not a failure, it's a flare, a marker on your internal map saying, here, right here, this is where you are not yet free. You don't need to become a monk or disappear into a cave to do this work. It begins now, in your ordinary life, at your desk, in traffic, in the awkward silence before you speak. Start with one moment, just one. Catch the pattern once. When you notice yourself spiraling into self-doubt, or avoiding that one task you know will move your life forward, or scrolling to escape a feeling, pause. Don't fight it. Don't shame it. Just breathe and smile inwardly as if you've caught a trickster red-handed. Then say, silently and calmly, I see you. I recognize this story. That single act of awareness is the beginning of your liberation. You don't have to dismantle the whole prison tonight. Just notice the door. That's the first broken link in the chain. And this journey, while deeply personal, gains power when walked together. So if you're here now, if you've listened all the way through, this is your moment to step forward, not as a follower, but as a sovereign witness to your own awakening. Drop one word in the comments: victory. Let it be your declaration, your first flag planted on the soil of your inner freedom. And if you dare to go deeper, share this. What's the favorite trick of your inner saboteur? Is it perfectionism? Is it self-doubt wearing the mask of logic? Is it that voice that whispers, you're too late? By naming it, you weaken it. And more importantly, you give someone else, someone silently battling their own ego, the permission to name theirs too. Because, as Augustine's journey reveals, freedom isn't the end of the battle. It's knowing, moment by moment, that you always hold the keys.